Jesus once told a story to a bunch of people, and he said, there were some religious people that came to speak to him, and he said to them point blank, he said, "You're all slaves." And they didn't understand what Jesus meant by that. So Jesus then told a story. He said, a certain man had 2 sons, and he asked the sons if they would do some work for him. The first son screamed and said, "No, I'll never do that work." The second son, with his whole heart and mind and soul, said, "I go, sir," and was planning on doing the work, but for whatever reason, he didn't do the work. The first son felt bad and then went and did the work. Jesus asked the people, he said, of the 2 sons, who did the will of the Father? And the religious people back then said, well, the first son, of course. And then Jesus point blank looked at them and said, I tell you, there's prostitutes and politicians that have already entered God's kingdom, and you still haven't. The point of Jesus' story was people that are religious and claim to do all this work and be so righteous and so forth, they're not doing the will of the Father. They're just working. They're slaves. But there's, according to Jesus, there's people that they would think are bad, like prostitutes and politicians. But there's a lot of prostitutes out there that are really close to God and do the will of the Father, and they have already entered God's kingdom. There's lots of politicians out there that are morally courageous, that try to make the world a better place, and they have already entered God's kingdom. And that was the point of Jesus' story. Jesus said, if your eye is causing you to stumble, tear it out. He talks about people in life that stumble, other people that are trying to do what they think is right. And Jesus said, people that do that, it's better for them to have a huge weight attached to them and thrown into a river or lake if they hurt one of God's little ones, so to speak. It's so difficult. Like Jesus spoke about how awful life would get, that some people would just pass out and it would be so horrible. But Jesus said these horrible things happen because they must happen. And my own theory on the matter is that it has something to do with maybe God doesn't directly kill people, but like if you do awful things to other people and you're a worker of lawlessness, so to speak, like Jesus said, then like the awful things you've done to others, somehow God will reveal that to you, and then it'll like destroy you in a way. When Jesus first began his ministry, he said, happy are those that are pure of heart, since they will see God. He said, happy are you when you're persecuted for my name's sake, for your wealth in heaven is very great. Jesus said that if you confess me before men, I will confess you before the angels. When he was walking to visit a place, he began to talk to his followers and say to them to beware of the leaven from the scribes and Pharisees. If you think about religious leaders today, they make all these books and literature and they script stuff, and it like grows in your mind, just like leaven grows in bread. That's what Jesus was speaking about. Jesus said, let's not behave too foolishly with one another. Jesus said, the world is lying in the hands of the wicked one. If you think about it, our whole world is just deception and perversion, and I think if evolution were true, our lives wouldn't be as bad as they are. I totally believe in creation and that there is some sort of supernatural evil that goes on. In other words, if evolution were true, there's just some unnecessary deception that goes on that would be outside of an evolutionary growth.